Good now, revolutionaries, and welcome to the Rise Up Morning Show.
Rise Up Morning Show.
Today is Thursday, May 29th. You're back here with Evan, Alex, Will, and later today we will be joined by our friend Geebz, venture capitalist extraordinaire, educator, and now, we hope, more regular correspondent for the Rise Up Morning Show. We got to see him at Consensus. I'm excited to actually catch up because when we saw him, it was like it always is when you see people at the conference where you're like, oh my gosh, so glad to see you. And everyone's really sincere and authentic about it, but you're like, whew, you know, we're all going a million different places. We all got a million. That was the last day, I think. And I don't know, we all had chaos on the floor. So it'll be good to get him back. It's good to be back with you guys. I am so sad I missed After Dark last night. It sounded like it was a killer episode, yeah?
It was nice to have Rudo on. It was great.
Yeah.
Oh. So I will have to listen back to the recording. If you are hearing my voice right now and you did not see the episode of Rise Up After Dark yesterday, then go check it out. You can find the links at theriseupmorningshow.com. Wherever you get your podcasts, we are there. Rudo, a.k.a. GN, is... What's his title over at Polygon? I always forget everyone's title.
Head of growth marketing?
Head of growth marketing.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, so give me a little teaser. What are some of the things you guys got into?
You know, we did like a brief Katana overview, of course.
Yep.
Nice.
But Rudo did not work on the Katana side. He didn't really do any of that stuff, so he didn't really want to spend a ton of time on it. And we'll do a Katana episode later. With somebody from Katana. How many more times can I say Katana? But no, it was good. We just we had a good chunk where we just kind of talked about marketing in general with Web3 influencers in general, talking about the disparity between what trends on TikTok in crypto and what trends on Twitter, the disconnect between people on TikTok being like the most interested really in a broad general sense in learning about the industry, but always getting information second, third, fourth hand, and it generally being pretty awful. There's just not very many sources that do the direct reporting. There's a lot of news headline regurgitation, but all that kind of stuff. It was a good conversation to have with someone who is deeply ingrained in crypto Twitter, but also is familiar with how TikTok works because he has at least done content here before.
Yeah, and the audience appreciate it too. There are a bunch of comments like, hey, this kind of conversation is fascinating. Just kind of seeing how the sausage is made from a marketing standpoint of crypto companies and what the current temperature is, and also just understanding where Rudo's thoughts were on how crypto TikTok and the things that are talked about there is different from crypto Twitter. The big thing, he's like, yeah, dude, you have more dinosaur coins that are still alive here. And then we started talking about the trends that are really popular on crypto TikTok and how you're really missing out on the new stuff that everybody's talking about on crypto Twitter. And so it was interesting to talk about that dichotomy and how the communication of what's hot in the space right now is so very different on the two social media apps because the audience is very different.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's interesting too because the way the platforms work is kind of starting to come together. We talked about this the other day, Alex, that the people on Twitter, X, are starting to discover TikTok as if for the first time for the purpose of teaching and talking to people about crypto. And you guys are not going to believe what I saw yesterday. Yesterday, yes, you are. You're totally going to believe it. So,
Where are you about to go?
So, I just mean, I don't know. So there's this guy on
who couldn't breathe.
TikTok. I don't know if you've seen him. I'm going to do a little stream share here. Crypto rap calls. This is a crypto rap original is his tagline. And he's an entertainer, I guess, a streamer. He's got the Jeff the Dunker knockoffs. And he appears to be the kind of guy that Jeff the Dunker parodies, except it's not a parody. And yesterday, I just happened to be scrolling through TikTok where he was streaming, and I like to follow all the crypto people, even if we don't know each other, just because I like to keep an eye on what's happening around and stay hip, stay with it. And this brother was about to launch a meme token, and he was doing it on Pump.fun, and he was coordinating everybody over to the Discord, and he simultaneously went live on Twitter and Pump.fun and TikTok and launched this meme coin called Why Not? And he made a big speech about it, and pretty quickly, this thing bonded. It was like 2 minutes. This thing bonded, not even, from Pump.fun, which if you're unfamiliar with Pump.fun, basically means that people bought the meme token, pushing it to a $64,000 market cap, and launching it to its own smart contract on Radium. It was paired with some Solana, and pretty quickly this thing had like a market cap of $150,000. And it was, I kind of expect to, it was like the best, meaning most effective version of what I've seen those people do who get paid by a company to sit on a live stream for 8 hours and they're playing Got to Pump It Up. Hey, pump it up. But the guy, he writes raps about crypto. And he was getting mega followers, and it was, I don't know. I felt like the old guy.
It's all vibes, man. It's all crypto is. Particularly for the memes, you got to have the vibes.
It's
the
all vibes. He had the vibes. It was the perfect vibe soup, honestly.
Yeah,
and
vibe soup.
So if you happen to see it, I hope you made life-changing money. I hope you didn't get wrecked. Please watch out there. There are so many wild cards on social media, and most of the loudest voices are not very helpful. A lot of the folks who are trying to ask for your attention are really trying to get some of that some of that sweet exit liquidity. So thank you guys for hosting. Will, especially you, for driving the soundboard. Extra point for you when we play next time. And big shout out to Matt, who won yesterday because Rudo won. I know we're going to send him a little Polygon swag, yeah? Or is Rudo sending him some swag? I saw Rudo said something like, hey, drop your wallet address.
He's not only going to get a Polygon sweatshirt, but he's going to be the first person ever whitelisted onto something.
What? Oh.
He's gonna get
Heck
some
yeah.
shit.
Way to go, Matt. And big thanks to Rudo. And this seems like a good time to just remind folks that the Rise Up Morning Show is powered by Polygon. But even if we weren't in a partnership officially, I still think we'd be good friends. They really do hook our people up. And they've been doing that for a lot of folks across the space for a long time. So way to go. Matt, if you haven't yet, send us or send Rudo, send us in that DM or in that help ticket we've got open an address so we can get you your stuff. And if you want to be eligible to win a prize on a future episode of Rise Up After Dark, hey, I got good news for you. You can head over to the riseupmorningshow.com and start a free trial of our premium membership right now. 7 days, totally free. The way to hack it is sign up on a Tuesday right before After Dark, and then maybe we will pick you, yes, you, to win a prize if one of our guests wins that silly little game we play. And then you can cancel anytime if you don't like it, but you might like the office hours, and you might like the free PDF guides and ebooks, and you might like the priority responses and the discounts and all those things. And of course, you're going to love the Circle community when we migrate over there. I promise you, you will love it. The only thing missing, my friends, is you, but you don't have to spend $1 to learn with us. Check out our Discord, check out our membership, and all the other educational links at theriseupmorningshow.com. Devin GS on TikTok says about the Why Not meme token. It currently has a market cap of $4,000. Nobody's making life-changing money today. Sorry about that.
That's how it goes, ladies and gentlemen. How the cookie crumble.
We have a question from Aziz. How do you predict the future of ZBCN, which is the token for ZBEC? And I just wanted to let you know that we have, from earlier this week, a good chunk of conversation of our take on the token, where we think it's going, where we think it's don't, what it would take to get there, etc., so on and so forth. And maybe we can ask Geebz what he thinks about that today, because that's a good place maybe to see. If he hasn't heard of it, that's another feather in the cap of the argument that what people talk about on TikTok is very different than what people talk about on Twitter. What are you thinking, Alex? I see your face.
Rudo rolled his eyes immediately after hearing the name.
After hearing Geebz or hearing ZBEC?
ZBEC.
Oh,
Yeah, immediately.
Honestly, at this point, with that one, I think it almost suffices to say that it's incredibly overhyped. Please be careful, because everybody knows about it. There's nothing new or secret. No one's early to anything with it. It has a market cap that I think, when looked at next to some other really big things, it seems super tiny. Makes it seem like, okay, this thing has a shitload of room to run. But when you look at the things that it's a competitor with across the rest of the space, including things that have been like operating exactly as they purport to want to operate for a while, they have very comparable market caps, if not lower. So just be careful, and don't be afraid to pay yourself. If you made it big because it ran up like crazy, and if you caught that thing early and rode up a bunch, don't be afraid to pay yourself a little bit. I would say this is a great instance to cover the basics of the profit taking strategy, which is keep exposure in both directions, so you're prepared either way that the thing goes. Meaning, if you have, say you buy $100 of this thing and it turns into $1,000, and you sell a third of it, so now you have $330 back in stable coins in USDC, and then you still have more than you started with exposure to the thing. If it continues to go up because your conviction and your bet was right and all that kind of stuff, great, you still have exposure up. If it doesn't, but you think that it'll come back and it crashes, you have stablecoin exposure to expand your position. Or if it continues to crash and whatever, at least you secured more than you originally put in, so you won, and you have more to level up into something else that catches your eye or feels like it could be a good moment. Exposure either direction is the secret sauce.
Nice. I like that. Will, did you have a thought?
No, I don't really have anything to add on that. Sorry.
I want to address this question then that came to us in the audience that's a good follow-on, which is about self-custody versus custodial solutions, and specifically with regard to river.com, which I've shared that I use to buy my Bitcoin, make it easy, automated, cheap, fun. If you don't know, you can automate buys on this platform and other platforms like it just to make it easy to accumulate Bitcoin. But on a custodial platform, you don't own the keys, you own an account that the platform lets you borrow. They have a private key on your behalf. They are the ones to whom the crypto is assigned. But on River, you maintain full control to send your crypto off the platform. And what I usually do, the question was, do I need to send my crypto to cold storage or a self-custody wallet if I use River? But you could ask the same question for Coinbase or something else. In fact, I made a video the other day on this. Somebody was saying, well, it gets expensive when you're using it with a wallet. But if you just make it a point to send crypto to your cold storage wallet periodically, whenever it seems right to you, then you can minimize costs and get the benefits of self-custody cold storage. I think it's fine to leave your assets on River's platform overnight, the way I think it's fine to leave your assets on Coinbase's platform overnight. And personally, I do a lot of, I trust Coinbase or River or Exodus or whoever with the assets. I don't think Exodus is an exchange. I'm with the assets that I have on their platform for a short period of time. But the risk you take is that if something happens to that business, something can happen to your assets, or they may be delayed in returning them to you. So just set a schedule. If you're buying Bitcoin on River every month, every week, every 2 months, whatever seems appropriate to you, do a transaction to send that Bitcoin to your cold storage wallet. And if you're just starting and you're learning, you're not going to get hacked and lose all your money unless you're being wild and careless or, lightning strikes Coinbase or something like that. That could happen. But take your time. Learn self-custody. I would say, guys, most people lose money by making a sloppy mistake or moving too quickly than they do from any tool or software solution. Yeah. Help me out, man.
Sorry. I was
Answering the-
What are you guys doing?
Answering the question, who is Zebek's competition? Which actually,
Oh, that's a great question. Take it.
I think
I would say Sablier is one to look up. It's spelled like Saber, but with an L-I in the middle. Sablier is like Zebek, but for DeFi. They've been around a little longer. And
Superfluid.
Yep.
Mean Finance. There's another one.
I would say Superfluid and
Streamflow
Sablier are the ones that I'm thinking of. And honestly, the other ones that you can do it yourself with, I talk about Cougar DAO on the show often. Some of my friends here in Memphis are part of a collective of people who use smart contracts and tokens to manage properties together in a DAO. And they use a solution called Kali.gg, Kali.gg, for their smart contract development. And it has, among other features, streaming payments. And you don't have to be a coder to know how to use it.
Yeah, the big thing to remember here is that this is not a novel use of a smart contract. And the short answer is, like, there are several specific entities that are basically doing the same thing, like the ones we just listed off and mentioned. But any smart contract platform can simply have someone write a smart contract to stream payments. It's like saying, this is basically the same thing as saying, we're building a spot that is designed specifically to mint NFTs. And then someone being like, oh, well, can't every blockchain do that? Yes, they can. There is nothing unique or special about this, but often that doesn't particularly matter if someone crushes branding, awareness, marketing, mindshare, all of those things. Somebody
And
who is
timing.
doing and timing and perfectly capitalizing on the rumor mill. So this is just one of those things. Like, they're not doing anything special, nothing unique, nothing is new. They are preaching a partnership with like MasterCard and Visa instead of saying what actually happened, which is that they're paying MasterCard and Visa for the use of their services. MasterCard and Visa got a new client. Of course, they're going to say yes to that. So just keep it in mind.
Yeah, and also to Isuke Graphics, who commented, you guys going to talk about airdrops or futures trading? We actually talked a lot about airdrops last night with Rudo from Polygon. So go and check out the recording on YouTube at the Rise Up Morning Show's YouTube. I also, before we got too far away from it, it was the conversation around like, using Coinbase and maybe keeping some stuff there, or just like on an exchange. I wanted some people to know that some centralized exchanges, Coinbase is one of them, has some insurance protection as well. So I pulled that up here. So what Coinbase, the instances where you'll get insurance coverage is if there's theft of funds from Coinbase's system due to cybersecurity breaches or internal theft, and loss of USD balances due to failure of US-based FDIC insured banks. So Coinbase were to get hacked or whatever, you are covered up to $250,000 per customer for things held in Coinbase custodial accounts. I did verify if you are using Coinbase's services in any way, shape, or form, you are using a custodial account. Also, Coinbase, while they are not, it's not your crypto until you take it off of the exchange. Coinbase does hold in cold storage 98% of customer crypto assets that are stored offline. And they also have hot wallet insurance. I didn't read this one, but so Coinbase maintains a commercial crime insurance policy to cover losses of crypto assets held in their online hot wallets, which are necessary to facilitate trading. So it's important to know what you're protected on and what you are not protected on. What you are not protected on is losses due to you giving away your personal Coinbase account information, you sending stuff to the wrong address or falling prey to scams, and of course, fluctuations in cryptocurrency prices. But you do have FDIC insurance up to $250,000 per customer that would be protected if Coinbase were to be hacked. Just remember, if Coinbase were to go bankrupt, which I don't think is going to happen anytime soon, you would have to wait to get your money back in a lengthy court process. And we've seen that happen a number of times, not with Coinbase, but with other exchanges. So it's important to know how and where you're protected.
Yeah, and that's automatic. Like, your bank is automatic. You don't have to do anything to enroll in that. In order to offer the services to you that they do, that is like a feature that users on their platform just get to take advantage of.
Yep, exactly.
And increasingly, there are decentralized options for people who want to insure their crypto against other types of loss. Because a lot of folks will be like, well, thanks, Coinbase, but I'm not worried about you getting hacked. I'm worried about somebody hacking me. I'm worried about clicking a bad link. I'm worried about, exposing my seed phrase or whatever. And there are, none of them come to mind off the top of my head. Maybe we can look them up. A couple of platforms that will do, like decentralized insurance. Like if me and Alex and Will wanted to put up $1,000 a piece, into a smart contract that would pay out to people who had been paying us. We'd be like, hey, it's Rise Up Insurance. And, Music Man would buy a policy for $25 a month or whatever the members of the DAO deemed was appropriate in order to insure against some kind of crypto loss. Honestly, if you want a little homework, look it up with GPT or with Claude or your favorite AI LLM assistant, and then come back and tell us what you find. We had a question that here it is from Palmer. Hey, Palmer. It's good to see you always. how do you get paid your interest if you move your assets to a cold wallet? Talking back to like my stuff is on River or my stuff is on Coinbase. I think he means staking. So who wants to give me an explanation here? What goes on when I move my assets to a self-custody wallet? Does it mean I can't stake them, or I have to unstake them, or can't earn interest? Tell me, Alex. Tell me what.
Alex will have a better answer. My answer is simply yes, you can. You can keep your stuff on your hardware wallet. You can integrate it to various staking solutions that integrated cold storage wallets years ago now at this point. And that's pretty much the answer. I don't know, Alex, if there's any more nuance to that.
No, honestly, that's basically it. It really just depends where you're trying to earn yield on what, because not everything works with everything, of course. So, for example, Ledger Live, their like native dashboard software program that you get when you use Ledger, has a bunch of options. You can do some buys and you can do some swaps. You can trade. There are staking options. For a very long time, I was staking Cardano through my Trezor via Daedalus as the interface.
Oh my gosh.
Oh,
yeah.
Gross.
Talk about a blast from the past. If you want to look up something interesting that you've never read about before, Daedalus was a hot wallet, sort of, that Cardano had. I don't know if it's still active. I have not looked in several years. But it was a full node wallet, meaning that every time you opened it, it was full. It was completely syncing with the entire blockchain and updating its internal like storage on your machine to be everything that's happened. So it would take, and I shit you not, 2 to 3 hours to open the wallet every single time. And if you hadn't opened it in like 3 or 4 weeks, it was like 6 hours to just to open it. It was awful. But
and Alex, when you opened it and you checked on your delegated stake, how were those sweet, sweet yields, man? Was it worth it?
Oh, dude. Yeah, there's nothing better than spending 6 hours to open it up and see that I had to earn 9 cents or some shit. Listen, the biggest burn I ever got was staking Cardano for a whole bunch of different stuff. Farming airdrops, Cardano airdrops years and years ago. They were awful. But no, in answer to the general question, it completely depends on what you're trying to stake and which wallet you have. Some cold wallets have staking services baked in. Some of them work with other ones. You can connect a MetaMask to your cold wallet, and you can use that to delegate a stake in some places. I would say that it's very impossible to answer that question broadly and generally, but if you wanted to send us like, well, this is the wallet that I use and these are the things I'm trying to learn about interest on, then we can help you figure out the answer and find where you can, if you can, with whatever you're holding.
Got it. Alex, Will, you guys are absolutely fantastic. I need you to do a quick commercial or stall for me for just a second while I locate our guest in the world of TikTok.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, Evan, I don't know if you saw
Will
Will's
walk
outro.
the pillar because this train is a-rolling. Evan had to stop off and go use the bathroom for a second or something on this train. I don't know, whatever kind of simile or metaphor you want to use, but this sexy-ass crypto pretend radio show will continue to roll while we find Geebz on the Tiki-Talkie. Hope all you ladies and gentlemen and cool cats and swag dogs are out there doing cool things this day, as Will tries to think of additional things to say to fill this time.
I can tell when the train is pulling into the station and when it has no more track to run on because of what you said. I absolutely love it. Okay, fortunately, you're totally good. Don't fret. All the commenters say Will missed his calling. Thankfully, he's got a fake radio show. And what better way to celebrate than with all our friends? So, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome our friend, venture capitalist, correspondent, and all-around good guy, Geebz, to the show. What's going on, brother? How you been?
Hey guys, good morning. Good morning. I'm trying to figure out how these different things work. I know you guys are pros at it, but things are great. How are you guys doing?
I wouldn't call me a pro, but Evan and Alex.
Will is here.
I'm here.
Although, let me tell you what, he was really doing the pro thing yesterday. We've given him some roses already, but I think he deserves more for his impromptu radio skills.
And Evan, I do. If we can clip a specific sound, which would be like soundboardception, it would be Will trying to like send a sound, but having no clue which button does what, and just like hitting button, no, 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 no.
Random sound, random sound, no, random sound, no, random sound, no, random sound. Hey,
nailed it.
I feel like my mom right now trying to figure things out. I'm like pressing buttons and trying to get my video working.
It got even better, Geebz, because Alex was like, Will, doesn't it have a label? And on my, like, I have my soundboard in my drawer, so the very top of it is blocked. And I just pulled up the drawer more, and I was like, huh, yeah, every button's labeled. I was like, the answer was staring right in front of me the entire time.
That sounds very amateur, Will. Yeah, it's the soundboard, having everything in front of you.
That's what I said. That's what I said. Bro, I'm here.
Well, and at this point, I mean, we have a checkered past with soundboards. We dicked around forever with Evan being the only one that had one, and then I got one. It immediately worked, and it was amazing. And then almost immediately after that, it just completely bricked, and I've been like fighting with Rodecaster to get my money back and get it like the warranty honored. But it was a refurbished one, so it's a separate warranty program through Guitar Center, so it's very annoying. Of course, because it couldn't be easy. And then Will has just always been like one cable away from his soundboard working for like the last 4 months. And so now it's here, and we're faker and more radio-y than ever before.
I'm already learning.
Wait, wrong one. Wait, there it is. That was genuine. I was not trying to play the bit.
Well, it's the fastest you found the sound ever, so I'm proud of you.
Great.
It's getting better.
Fastest fingers in the biz. Gerard, do you want to reintroduce yourself for the folks back home who may not know who you are, haven't seen the first episode that we did together?
Sure. First off, thanks for having me back on, guys. Second time here, big fan. So I've been around crypto for about a decade now. Started off sort of building DLT within the consulting world. Moved on to build some products, and have been in the venture side of the house for about 3.5 years now, investing primarily in early stage, pre-seed, seed level startups within the crypto world. Very generalist. So I end up looking at deals across the entire spectrum of DeFi, CeFi, consumer, RWAs, the whole nine. So excited to be here, talk to you guys. It's funny, I ran into both of you in Toronto randomly. I'm just walking around the conference, and I get a little tap on my shoulder, and this tall man wearing overalls is behind me. And it's Evan. And Alex, I got to meet you in person, which was awesome.
Hell yeah. Dude, their conferences are the best when you don't know who's going to be there, and you're just like wandering around seeing all your friends. It's the best thing ever.
Yeah, I like that a lot. I wore my Uniswap bandana that I got at the the rock climbing gym. That was the day that you and I met, just in honor of like the beginning of a beautiful friendship.
Swag up. I love it.
So tell us what you think about Consensus. What were your takeaways from the conference? For us, it seemed like a lot of interesting RWA and DeFi stuff, and really, I was noticing kind of a cool merger of the two, especially like in nuanced ways across the spectrum, where you got like, I want to tokenize gold, and I worked at a bank for 20 years, and these are all my partnerships, and then you've got like, dude, I'm a curve whale, and we've got a bunch of assets that we want to privately tokenize in order to like bring more fresh money into the DeFi ecosystem. So like just total opposite sides of the same coin, really novel stuff. I feel like that's what I saw a lot of. But what about you, brother?
That's a big part of it, guys. And that's honestly a big part of the deals that I've been looking at lately. I've been spending a majority of my time in sort of the RWA side of the house, how that intersects with crypto and what that looks like going forward. Because there's a lot of red tape, but a lot of people aren't looking at the red tape. A lot of people don't care about it. So consensus takeaways, I mean, a few big ones. First one was I kind of thought consensus was a little bit on the decline this year. They moved to Toronto. There's conference season going on right now, right? You had Token, you have consensus, you have permissionless coming up, you have ECC. This is the season where everyone tries to cram in this time. Bitcoin Vegas is going on right now. And there's some road warriors who are going to every single one of these. And so I really thought there would be some exhaustion, some level of folks not going, and I was completely wrong. Consensus was packed. The 2 days that I had gone to the conference, it was absolutely packed. Tons of sponsors, seeing sort of the big players spend a lot of money to get big booths, to have people on, there and attending. So that was my first big takeaway, was that Consensus is alive and well. It's not going anywhere. CoinDesk is still putting on a great conference out there. I don't know if you guys had felt the same way.
Yeah, this was my fourth Consensus, and I would say that I definitely got the vibe that I've been actually struggling to put this into concise words. It was not necessarily smaller in terms of like the value, but like there were fewer booths, but the booths were all a little bit bigger and a little bit more like solid and clean and professional looking. Like it looked a lot more purposeful, a lot less like, not to say that last year's Consensus was picnic tables with tablecloths over it, but like that was there were so many more stations that were sort of crammed in. I think they like oversold the sponsorships and really just had as many as they could possibly fit. And this time it was like, nope, limited floor space. They're bigger, they're more expensive. And I was interested to see that a lot of the people who had the bigger tables I'd never heard of before. I had never seen them at a conference before.
Yeah, there were a lot of big booths with names I didn't know.
Yeah, it's like multiple.
Big time.
Yeah, which was very interesting. Usually you see all of the same stuff, Polkadot and Stellar, and all of these always have a huge thing. Stellar gets bigger every year. They owned a quarter of the conference floor over there with their giant networking lounge. They don't even do booths anymore. They just they build an attraction. So that was cool. And then, I would say other than that, this year, I didn't see a ton of representation from many different niches. I would say it was DeFi in the biggest way, followed closely by RWA. I still maintain that that's a perfect union. Those two were made for each other. And then underneath that, there was definitely like some DePIN stuff. I'm still so... Geebz, I want to hear about what you think with DePIN, because I'm so sketched out by the entire niche.
Yeah, I'd love to talk. I run a bunch of projects at home, so I'd love to talk about RWAs and DePIN, baby. Those are like the two things I've been geeking out about for a while.
Dude.
Okay, let me set you up with why I'm skeptical, and then I want to hear what you think. I think that the idea is one of my favorites, especially when we talk about like repurposing idle hardware to do something, to be able to contribute more meaningfully instead of being a waste. An energy drain or whatever, especially for all of the stuff that we have in our houses that's like residual power, that's sort of like just drawing a trickle charge by being plugged in, but you're not really using it. And like theoretically you could do something else with it. I think that's fascinating. I think that what usually ends up happening is that someone builds a pyramid scheme within a pyramid scheme and sells me a piece of junk to farm their piece of junk token. And I'm doing like double whammy pyramid scheme with crappy node sales and the sleaziest salespeople in the entire industry. And I'm just like, it's so hard to take it seriously when that's the thing. But there are definitely some things that I'm like very interested in. I just think in practice, it always just seems to be sleazy.
Yeah. So Alex, you bring up a great point. And let's come back to Consensus in a minute. But I'm going to send, as always, I'm going to send a link with some data. And let's talk through it a little bit. So,
okay, I'm pulling it up as we speak.
Perfect. So, Alex, DePIN itself and RWAs, I think, are these very blanket categorizations that we have for different things within crypto. So DePIN stands for decentralized physical infrastructure. There's this other category called DVIN, virtual infrastructure. RWAs, real world assets. These are just terms. These are things that I think DePIN was literally made up during a Masari Twitter poll. Like that's how the name came to be. And now it's one of the largest sectors in crypto.
Love that. Just did not know that.
Incredible crypto things here. And so, so what does this sector mean? What you brought up is interesting. That is one specific subset within DePIN. And that's considered the compute sector. So you have an idle computer, you have an idle device. Maybe it can be used for storage purposes. It can be used for compute purposes. But these are generally kind of like low level devices for the most part. And you're now competing with the AWSs of the world, GCPs, Azures. And I think it's really difficult for you to go up and really compete against them in a difficult way, especially when you're creating, like you said, like a this system that has an oversupply, because there's endless amounts of people that want to give up their little bit of compute and storage, but the demand side there just hasn't caught up. So you have this glut of supply, which leads a glut of token emissions, which leads to kind of the token not doing well. DePIN is truly a business. When you look at this website, so what we have here, there's a few of these. This one's called DePIN Scan. And so if we look at some of these projects here and we scroll down, you can see they break it down into these categories. So there's chain, server, which you mentioned before. There's like server and compute. There's AI. There's the wireless ones like Helium, which is standing up entirely, entire wireless and IoT and Wi-Fi networks out there, right? They're now, AT&T is using Helium to offload wireless compute within cities and other places where they don't want to build the infrastructure. Someone can go ahead and do that. And
Which
then
is
there's
crazy that they've gotten
that's
that.
wild.
Amazing. Yeah.
William, wild that they're doing this. I actually think they're doing some really cool stuff, and that's great to see. And then you have these sensors right here as well. Like you have Hive Mapper, and there's other ones here. And so let's break down and just talk about each one of these, and then we'll go into what I'm kind of excited about versus what maybe I'm not super excited about. I've made some investments in this space, and I run some myself, and so I'll just talk through them. The compute ones I think are really cool and really interesting, but I think they're just going to take a while for demand to catch up to supply. And you can see a world where a lot of these decentralized AI protocols maybe start to use this compute, they start to use this storage, and there's an entire world where these networks collide and merge. But for right now, most developers I know are going to your classic AWS, GPC, Azure. Like they want to go to the big guys. They know that what they're going to get. They know the pricing they're going to get. Although Akash is, doing well and they're performing great there.
Can I say really quick one interesting tidbit? As you're talking about, people using Google and Azure and all of these other kind of different, like the titans of this space for these different services, whenever you go to these big crypto conferences, like Consensus, for example, it wasn't as big or prevalent this year, but last year, for example, there was a co-working station that was sponsored by Google. There has also been an AWS sponsored like networking lounge before. I've seen a product demo stage that was completely run by Azure. They were the headline sponsor for the whole thing. So like these, like when you see a crypto company advertising like a partnership with this kind of stuff, that's again, it's just like the Zbeck Visa MasterCard thing. They're paying them for a service being used as a client, advertising it as a partnership because people who don't read into it get really excited by it. But they have a big presence in the crypto space for sure. These huge companies.
Huge presence, and they know it too. Yeah, and a lot of them are trying to find ways to integrate and they could be the acquirer of some of these different companies out there for sure. So going back to these categories though, right? The wireless sector, you have the Heliums of the world. Like William said, super cool that AT&T is looking at them and going, okay, we can offload bandwidth to these folks, and it's sort of a win-win situation. I think that's what you want to see is partnerships like that.
Yeah.
And then you have the sensors of the world. And the sensors are actually one of the two that I'm most excited about. Stuff like Grass, I think, is kind of cool. We've made an investment in a competitor, which is, web scraping is difficult to do at scale. It's hard because there's IP blockers. Websites start to see this type of stuff. And so what ends up happening is you run a little node on your computer, and it uses your browser to then go and scrape the internet, and they have unlimited IP addresses. So it looks like normal web traffic, and then they start to scrape all this valuable data. Why is this important? AI needs a lot of data to be trained on. And inevitably, we're running out of really high quality data via what's available currently that can be done at scale, live data, licensing deals. A majority of the internet just isn't scraped because of this. This unlocks that. So this is one of the use cases I'm really excited about. And then there's the sensors of the world. So I'm looking at it right now. I have like a WingBits rig. This is cool. It's like it runs off a Raspberry Pi. It has an antenna. And what I'm doing is tracking all the airplanes in the sky in my area. Wow. And it's a competitor to a sky scanner, or a similar product like that, where it's now creating this giant mesh of data that's kind of invisible, but exists, that hobbyists maybe were already capturing. So I think Skyscanner sold for a couple $100 million, and all those hobbyists who are contributing to this network, you know, they got their premium subscription, but they didn't get any ownership in that network that they were actively contributing to. How crazy is that?
Dude, it's wild. And I just want to say, this is like right up the alley. We have a friend, Tori, who's been a longtime friend and was listening to the show on YouTube and on TikTok and was saying, I really need to get into this nerd shit, she says for the 12th time, because every time we talk about DePIN, Tori is into like radio communications. She works at a typewriter maintenance shop. She is like the queen of tinkering with devices.
She's into the nerd shit, but I think Tori you can always get deeper into the nerd shit.
Well, and so I'm curious, like, okay, so there's obviously a lot to go through. We pulled up DePIN scan. If I'm somebody like Tori, who is a hobbyist, who wants to get even nerdier and could probably be running a bunch of these different devices at home, like, is that where you would start? Or do you have like a 1, 2, 3 step? Do you think there's any particularly user-friendly network that would set somebody up for success on a DePIN journey if they wanted to tinker?
Yeah, that's a great question, Evan. I think here's the first thing I'll say is that DePIN projects won't make you rich by any means. I think you have to, I approach this knowing I'm a node in this network. I'm this person who wants to contribute to this. This might be a loss leader for me. And I'm very comfortable with that and knowing that. The second thing is, I think decide if you want to be involved in a project that you're genuinely interested in. So for Wingbits, I love this idea that I can go see all these planes that are around me. For WeatherXM, for example, and by the way, we invested in none of these projects, just FYI. This is my personal tinkering.
Yeah.
WeatherXM, I have this weather station in my backyard. It gives me all this live, awesome data for my home. And I'm contributing to this larger weather network and receiving this WXM token. I haven't even broken even. It's been over a year now. So I think the biggest thing to keep in mind is that the supply side for a lot of these projects is really high and the demand side hasn't met it yet. So I think find something that you like, something that you enjoy. If you're a tinkerer, get on in there, go and tinker and try these things out. I think DePIN is natively, you can argue that Bitcoin is the original DePIN network. It coordinated a bunch of people to go ahead and run nodes in a way to produce something at the end of the day. And I think that, some of these projects have really high commercial potential, but we're just not there yet. So I think step one, find something you love, know it's a loss leader, know you're a tinkerer.
That's always been my biggest concern with DePIN. Even with like render, I was like, okay, cool. Even when like the world base for render was at the highest it was, which was just after COVID, and GPU machines were really expensive and really limited. So I was like, that was like the ultimate use case for it from a real world standpoint. But then as more GPU units got produced and all that, and that supply crunch ended, I was just like, okay, like it's cool that all this computational power is out there, but like no business is going to use this because like they're not going to take a risk on having their computational power be something else other than the safety for their job security for an Amazon, a Microsoft, and a Google. And so I don't know why I never drew this line before, but I guess like the path forward for adoption would be partnership with someone like a Render and an Amazon, a Google, or whoever, where hey, like we don't want to go out and buy more servers to have to stand up, but we could just use these guys, and have like offshoot extra demand and have some kind of partnership deal. But where do you? All of this is me trying to set you up with a question, Geebz, of where and how do you think that demand comes? Is it just natural over time? People figure out about it? Is it partnerships? Is it a marketing problem? Where and how does that demand or that bridge get built between demand and the product that's available and supply in the market?
Such a good question. And I think it's dependent on the project or the sort of DePIN sector. But you hit the nail on the head. It's all about distribution, and it's all about getting these products into the hands of people. So the Helium AT&T partnership is a great example of AT&T, massive network, Helium starting to try to come into that sector, finding those brand partnerships where you can get additional distribution or sort of fill in the holes where the major players are already doing stuff. I think that's the key component, or unlocking sort of new markets that could be available. So one example with WeatherXM, you'd say, well, how is weather data valuable? What can be done here with that? Because I could just go onto my Apple phone and like I have all the weather information I need possible. They're going to start to create basically like prediction markets. They want to try to become like the weather gauge for CME futures. There's all these places where weather data is valuable and traded. And the way that they end up settling on that weather data is dependent on usually one weather station or one oracle in an entire region. But imagine you had 50 nodes, and then you could take a mesh of that to determine what the oracle is. So to answer your question in kind of a long way, it's about distribution, it's about partnerships. I think it's about vampire attacking Web 2 and getting these products integrated into the behemoths so that they can start to get some traction and users, and then they start to offload more there.
Geebz, can you define that term you just used? What is a vampire attack?
What is a vampire attack? Oh boy, I just wrote a piece on this actually, on what a vampire attack is. Yeah. One sec, I'll bring it up.
Is it on Twitter, or is it on, I see you have a blog and I anticipated pulled it up.
The Magic Internet Money, yeah.
Yeah, okay, hold tight. Great. Tell us about it.
So a vampire attack became, this is a method of grabbing users from one protocol and bringing them into your protocol via aligned incentives. So the first major example of this was via a protocol called SushiSwap, which is an AMM. And what happened was, Uniswap came out, Uniswap existed, and basically SushiSwap came out and said, we're going to look at all of the activity you've had on Uniswap. We're going to give you tokens on our protocol and try and basically siphon you over. So this vampire attack concept became really popular then. There's a few other examples, and we've never seen anything actually take ground over time. So I wrote this little piece about using ZK-TLS to vampire attack Web 2. ZK-TLS is a technology that allows you to verify your Web 2 or existing tech identity in crypto. I think it's one of the coolest pieces of technology that exists. And I want to see more vampire attacks. I think they are so cool. I think it's great. I think it's one of the best marketing tactics that have ever existed. We just haven't seen it done really well and in a sticky manner.
It was done quite effectively during the NFT boom of 2021. There was a metric shitload of like wallet scrapings from one project and offering an incentive to come mint something else that sometimes included nefarious things like dumping the thing that you have from the first project and stealing users that way. And there was like a round, like a merry-go-round of people vampiring each other in I don't know what's in like a cycle, and it was that's when I first learned about like what that specific type of attack was.
Good tech, yeah. And so actually Blur, you can argue that Blur vampire attacking OpenSea might have been the most successful one of all time. Can
you touch on it for people who weren't here? That's a good history lesson, because in our space, not everything looks identical, but a lot of stuff rhymes, and you can fall prey to like hype and maybe lose your shirt if you're not familiar with what's come before. So Blur, OpenSea, what are they? What happened? Give us the scoop.
Yeah. So OpenSea is an NFT marketplace. Blur
you
is
might say the
also
OG NFT marketplace for consumers.
Oh yeah, it's the whale, right? It's the big one. Blur came to market, also an NFT marketplace, and they created all these incentive mechanisms to get you to come over to their platform. You would go and get multipliers and bonuses if you only listed on Blur as opposed to OpenSea. So they were watching your activity on both platforms, and you would sort of get more points and more tokens if you were doing activity solely on their platform. using loyalty scores. At the end of the day, it's a giant marketing scheme to effectively bring these users over and try and retain them. And the best way to think of it is when you open up a new dApp or a new app in Web 2, whatever it may be, you have this huge history. Evan, all you guys have massive followings on TikTok and other places. And if you were to go to a new platform, you effectively have to start fresh. But imagine if when you went to this new platform, all of a sudden, all your loyalty, all your identity, all your metrics just existed in this new place. That's a vampire attack. That
would have been so calming during the time where we lost TikTok for all of 3.5 hours. That would have been so calming.
So I have a couple of comments that I want to follow up on. First of all, Tori is so just thrilled about this conversation. She wants to know, first of all, WXM seems like amateur radio, and says, wait, are you into ham radio too? So Geebz, are you a ham radio guy?
No, but Tori sounds awesome.
Tori is awesome. She also said, oh, don't say mesh or my brain goes to mesh-tastic, which needs traction. So she's following you on the blog. She's following you on Twitter. You might get a DM from Tori who's like, hey, setting up my network. Got any tips? Or whatever, who wants to be like, handle buddies. She might be trying to get you into ham radio. She says that when she goes to meetups where she lives in Ohio, that it's her and like a bunch of 80-year-old guys. So trying to onboard, the new generation to ham radio. At the same time, we onboard like older folks to DePIN. And I wanted to shout out a resource that we covered on the show before, our friends over at DePIN Hub, which is dpinhub.io. Somebody help me out with a quick fact check
yourself, brother.
But they have an aggregator of, just like DePIN Scan does, different DePIN projects that they have vetted, that have offered their people incentives, that kind of thing. They're pretty good about posting projects that aren't just a flash in the pan, but they also track, thank you very much,
and it is
hype tokens of the moment. Thank you. dpinhub.io.
Incredible.
Yeah, if you want to hear more from them directly, check out episode 291 of the Rise Up Morning Show. You can find the links to listen on your favorite platform at theriseupmorningshow.com. And hey, that seems like a good time to tell you, we are on your favorite podcasting platform. If you're listening on Spotify, on Apple, or YouTube podcasts in the future, first of all, hello. Hope your candles are green. Second of all, I issued a challenge to everybody like 2 weeks ago now, that if you leave us a comment on one of those podcasting platforms, any episode, anytime, not only will we answer your question or address your concern, we might pick you, yes, you at random, to win a little swag. We've got a lot of swag now from our friends. And Geebz, I want to officially enlist your help with this. We want to be a recycling solution for Web3 swag, because when people go to a conference and they get a bunch of stuff, or they ordered a bunch of stuff because they're like the foundation, and they just can't give the t-shirts away, and some poor marketing intern has got to travel with them back all the way to their house and then keep them in a closet forever until next season we get more t-shirts. I was like, no, guys, let's do our own version of a recycling program. If the protocol you love, has a bunch of cool swag, then send it to us. We will give you our address. We'll do all that for you, and then we will handle the distribution of your stuff to people who would actually enjoy it, especially if you are somebody with a cool product that you want to put in the hands of eager Web3 users. Then, oh my gosh, have we got a deal for you. Send it to the Rise Up Morning Show.
It's the perfect time to buy.
And we'll give it to all our friends.
I love that. Hey, I would love to go back to Consensus. I'd love to get your guys' takeaways. How was your experience there? How was your time? What do you think? Takeaways, highlights, lowlights?
My low light, first of all, my highlight and low light are the same thing. Our apartment was right across the street from the conference center in a beautiful high-rise building. Shout out to our friend Joe for hooking us up with that one. She absolutely crushed it. It had a rooftop pool. I had packed my kimono. My low light is that I never got to go to the rooftop pool. What about these guys?
I would just like to point out that everyone who has in their mind what a kimono is, I just want to point out that this is like, it was the sluttiest kimono I think I've ever seen. Like, it was barely had cloth. You could just see through everything right there. And I was like, Evan, it really is a shame that we couldn't have like filmed content and like made some funny skits of like you in that kimono specifically at the rooftop pool. Because we had the weather for it also. It was a real lost opportunity.
Yeah, I don't know. Conference wise, I didn't really have any lowlights. It was a good time. I think I was surprised to see a whole bunch of people I wasn't expecting to meet. Like I said, it was very interesting to see that basically the entire thing was about DeFi and RWA. I barely saw or heard anything else that was not one of those two things. If I had to pick a low light, it would be the fact that we were on the 34th floor at our in our Airbnb, and the elevator like barely worked. And on the first day, Evan and I had to use the stairs because it was just too sketchy.
Oh no!
And we came up to this thing, pushed the button, the elevator door opened, and this woman was inside. And she was like, "Thank God!"
She's like, "Thank God!"
I've been in there for 10 minutes, and we were just like, "Well, none of us want to get back in that thing now." So we were like, we were gonna take a risk, and we went back in there. We pushed the button, the door did not close, and the whole thing shook a little bit. So we were like, "Yeah, nope." Took the stairs instead.
Oh my God, that is a low light.
Yeah, that was a low light. But other than that, no, it was.
Got your steps in though. Got your exercise in, right?
Yeah, I went up the stairs at least twice by choice.
Yeah, it was.
Wow.
It was a lot.
Will, what about you?
Luckily, my low point was I just wasn't able to show up until.
My low point is I missed the conference.
I missed basically. I wasn't able to show up and get on the conference floor until the last half of the very last day, because I had other work meetings to attend to, and wasn't able to get up until the second to last day. And even then, I was too busy. I couldn't even get on the conference floor. But that night, I was able to go to our event that we held, and we had people from the Rise Up Morning Show at a bar, and we played some bowling and had some drinks and ate some food and got to know each other in real life. And so that was really, really cool. And also got to meet our friend at St. Jude Children's Hospital as well. And he's their head of Web3 development, because St. Jude's Children's Hospital has one. And we're trying to coordinate with them on ways that we can help, raise money in crypto for those kids. So like that was a really cool conversation, like really meaningful. So that was
incredible.
Yeah. So we'll figure that out. More details will come in the future, hopefully.
I also wanted to share one of my favorite things about like the booths, the conference. So we got to meet a lot of friends at a lot of places, like on and off the conference floor. But one of my highlights about the conference was I feel like this is my first consensus. And from hearing Alex talk about it, it sounds like it was a little more curated, and hearing what you said too, like it was kind of a mixed bag in terms of the curation, but I felt like at least the booths I felt like the conference floor was effective. It was not too big. It was like appropriately sized. I hate a huge conference floor, and I hate a bunch of junk booths. I didn't feel like there were a ton of junk booths, and I actually felt like there were a couple of protocols like Will mentioned that I was like, I was not familiar with, you guys. And one of the coolest protocols that I saw was Reserve. Did you see these guys? They had this like cookout kind of vibe going on with like beach balls and a grill full of t-shirts.
Yeah.
So Reserve protocol, I briefly touched on it, I think, when we were at Consensus, but their product is like crypto that you can introduce, you can bring home to your parents. They said they had a commercial where somebody is like in the car with their girlfriend driving home and saying like, "Don't worry, they're going to love you." And mom and dad open the door and they're like hugging and they're so glad. And then the camera pans over and it's not a girlfriend at all. It's like Reserve protocol. It's index investments, but make them crypto. So like they have a token that is the top 20 cryptos by market cap, and it automatically managed by smart contracts fluctuates, and you can buy this token and then you can just, get exposure without having to worry about any kind of, how do I sell this thing? How do I stake this thing? How do I whatever this thing? It's reserve.org. And I haven't played around with it much. I'd like to have them on the show, but I just thought it was an example of a really cool, like user-friendly, actually helpful crypto solution that somebody like, I don't know, my mom, who's not particularly technical, who doesn't really understand cryptography, what's a private key, could start using right now.
Incredible. I mean, that's what you love to see, right? This abstraction so that people can, when you think about people, how they invest now into stocks, bonds, etc., most of it's just done through index investing, right? Passive investors.
Yep.
And right now, the best exposure you get to that is just buying Bitcoin, because it is the index in a way. but imagine you can get exposure like this. That's really, really, really cool to see.
You know, I have one more highlight, and then I think we have just a couple more rapid fire questions, Geebz, before you head out for the day. But one of my favorite highlights, I just realized as we're talking about this particular thing, Joe, one of our community members, one of the big supporters of the show, who was kind enough to not just find a killer Airbnb, but also grocery shop for us because she's the best.
What a G.
She was just going up to people on the floor, like at their booth, and asking them what they were doing to reach people like her and what they were doing to onboard people like her.
Great question.
And Joe, I would love to get a longer answer from you just about like what all of that experience was like, because I didn't get a chance to hear a ton of it, but I gathered that there was some dumbfounded looks and some stumbles.
I can give you a quick preview because Joe was not only kind enough to do those things, but she also chauffeured me to the Michigan-Canada border by way of several road trips. So we got to have a couple of conversations about it. She said that generally speaking, people were like, oh, you know, some were equipped, some were underprepared. People are thinking about it, but they need to take more repetitions, it sounds like, before they're really ready to swing that bat. But
wow.
I was going to say some people were definitely seeing Joe walk around as like the boogie woman after she like spoke to them. Like, oh no, she's going to ask us how people can use the product.
You know, it's so interesting. So two things that I want to ask you guys about and just talk about. I want to come back to RWAs, but recently I've been trying to build a mental framework around products that we're seeing, and let's use these booths maybe as an example, or stuff you're seeing being built in crypto. I'm trying to think now, I'm like, who is this for? And how are they attracting users similar to what you said? And so I was at one of the hotels and I was sitting in a lobby and my meeting ended and I started talking with another guy in the venture world, and he got me thinking about this because he said, well, I'm thinking about it from the institutional side and then the consumer side. And then he gave me some examples and I was like, okay, maybe I need to think about that in an even broader context. Okay, so the way I'm trying to think about the categorization of different dApps or people building in the space now is we have what we're deeming institutions, right? And I'm going to break down 3 pillars and then sub pillars of those. Okay. So the 3 pillars, one, institutions. We have stable coins, RWAs, yield-bearing products, this idea that we can start to tokenize the existing economy, and it's geared maybe toward banks and institutions and other players, stablecoin movements, stuff like that. Second one is this quote unquote consumer bucket that we hear of all the time. And this is the one where I think of, you're very much like, these are Web 2 dApps that are trying to compete and grab attention and mind share from existing crypto folks. So you think of stuff like Polymarket or Blackbird. Maybe it's the way that someone gets their first experience into crypto. DePIN maybe is an example, right? Where we're bringing them in via this consumer side of things. But then I was like, there's this other bucket too, which is, I think your natives, your people that are in crypto. We've been here for 2, 3, 4 years, maybe even 6 months, but you love it so much, you dove into it and you're doing stuff on chain, you see the world. And then within the native bucket, I have 3 subcategories. One is sort of your degens who are out there, they're really high risk. Your traders who are out there and they're active, they're looking at different stuff. They have more of a strategic lens, let's say, on stuff. And then the third one is your believers. And these are folks who are like, I'm here for the tech. I'm a native. I love what's going on. And I believe that this is going forward. I want your guys' thoughts on that. Challenge it. Tell me what I'm missing. Because I want to build actually a post around this. I think there's something here.
Okay. So just to make sure I'm hearing it, institutions, consumers, natives. The 4th category really is the many. And it's the many with a capital M who've yet to join us. And they are the, mothers, brothers, sisters, business owners. They fall into those other buckets, but they just aren't here yet. And they may be people who are unbanked, like need infrastructure for finance, but they may also be like Web 2 founders who haven't gotten in touch with the tools, the products, the solutions that might help them, scale as something to reach the masses, I would say. What do you guys think? Is there anything missing?
Yes.
Go ahead.
So I spent a lot of time thinking about this. I actually just did a space with Euphoria talking about this idea specifically. The single biggest demographic in the entire industry, in the entire world of any industry, and I can't overstate this, is the casual user. And they are also, especially in crypto, the single most underserved demographic. So many people who listen, I'd like to earn some more interest on my savings account. I would like to add some diversity to my portfolio. I want to learn about investing in something. I just want to learn a new skill. I don't want to get left behind. I just want to keep kind of up to date. One or two of these things sound kind of interesting. I like to collect art. Maybe I could experiment with an NFT, whatever it is. People who don't want to make this thing their entire personality, but still have every right to be here and use the stuff because of what it is. And we do not create any content for those people. We don't spend any time thinking about them in terms of designing UX. The product people have no clue that they exist, and they're never thinking about them when they build anything. We build stuff for crypto beginners, not beginners. So we think that Connect Wallet Hit Stake is, a seamless onboarding experience when really you have two major hurdles right there in that what the hell is a wallet and what the hell is staking and what the hell am I putting in the wallet to stake with who, what, and we forget all of it. So I would say casual users, it's the biggest demographic in the entire industry and it's the single most underserved.
I would also add to your natives category, maybe scholars, schemers, plumbers. And if you don't have it in institutions, you definitely gotta. I think distinguishing different types of institutional users is really helpful, just in a world where we're all talking about regulation and the institutions are here. And there's a difference. William Quigley, our guest, just a little earlier, was talking about the difference between corporate entities. Microsoft wants to own Bitcoin, MicroStrategy, now Strategy, versus the Bitcoin that BlackRock custodies in order to offer its ETF product. Those are two very kind of different use cases. Robinhood now is buying Bitcoin. Thanks for your reporting, Mr. William Watson.
GameStop.
Oh, damn it.
Yeah, the Bitcoin Treasury reserves. Yeah.
I always confuse Robinhood and GameStop. I don't know why.
By the way,
They
Will,
do
that
nothing
was
similar.
one of my favorite news story commentaries that I've ever seen in a TikTok.
Oh, yeah.
The way that you did that video, I was dying.
I thought it was good. Basically, Geebz, I was just like, it's the perfect marriage between crayon-eating degenerates and more crayon-eating degenerates. It's perfect.
It's just stupid.
Wall Street bets crypto units.
That's Evan, you bring up a great point, though. I need to think through institutions more because they are approaching it in so many different ways. You're right.
Yeah.
And Alex, great talks all around. These are really good. I took a bunch of notes here.
I know you got to go, and we touched on this last time, so maybe before your final thought, if you have time, we did have a question earlier about DeSci. I think that was one of those narratives that people got really excited about, that like DePIN, there's a lot of hype, some substance. What do you think? Can you define it for us and give us your take on, is it just too early for DeSci, decentralized science, to have a meaningful role in the future of our space, or is it the right time?
Great. It's a
For
great question.
A little
to start.
context, Geebz. With the DeSci thing, one of the things we hit on a lot is one of Evan's favorite talking points in general about crypto is just the misalignment of incentives. And the problem is that DeSci, the idea of decentralizing the scientific method and research funding and all this kind of stuff, is one of the straight out the gate most banger ideas of all time. It's very, very hard to find a downside with that idea. Knowing where funding comes from that prompts certain research, yada, yada, whatever. I always use my toothpaste example. When Colgate published a study saying charcoal toothpaste is bad, they did not currently sell any charcoal toothpaste, and they funded the study. It obviously slanted. Problem. But when you do that through an investment-focused incentive structure by getting people to gamble on high-risk altcoins, and the person issuing it is motivated to do only off-ramping and selling whatever they make from it because they're trying to fund research, it's a broken model that just leads everybody to the inevitable cratering of a token that will never come back. And I don't know why we don't just do stable coins for this, but that's kind of where all of our hesitation comes from.
I think you just hit the nail on the head with the problem, which is misaligned incentives. And I think more importantly, it's timing. So a lot of investors in this space anticipate returns. They anticipate chart go up in a sort of short time span. Medical research takes a long time. You're talking years for these things to materialize. And to your point, like if you have a liquid token and the timing and the expectations are not set, people aren't going to hold it, because a lot of traders in this space simply want to sort of move in and out, and they don't have the ability to wait that long for something like that to materialize. The reality is that this makes a lot of sense when it comes to capital formation and then capital distribution and human coordination. Meaning, I have research I want to conduct. Alex, I think you set this up right, which means let's basically pool a bunch of stables together and then use those stables, right? Maybe we'll put them into some type of a yield bearing account. So we're getting our 3 to 5% on those stables. I'm the researcher. I've now pooled all this capital. My smart contracts will effectively be able to distribute the funds if our research ends up getting acquired, if we end up making a breakthrough drug. And I think that's where crypto is going to be really great for DeSci, is the capital formation and capital distribution. And everything in the middle is a team that's working on great research and great science and working on a breakthrough drug. But if it's a liquid tradable token, that's really, really difficult to gauge. It's similar to other stuff we've seen in the space where companies create brand coins and other stuff. And it's like, it almost seems like it hurts more than it helps, because you can't control the markets. You can't control those things. And you can have the best idea in the world, and the market will just say, hey, we've moved on, which is sad.
Yeah. That's interesting. Well, brother, thank you very much for your takes, for your time. We got to have you back again because we love it. And I want to know, before you go, if you've got a final thought, and ask for our audience something they can do to support you.
You can follow me on Twitter, 0xGeebz. Final thought, I think you guys touched on it earlier, Evan, when I was listening, which was, self-custody is great. Make sure that you're following, doing all the proper security measures as you're building your portfolio. And thanks for being here, all of you.
Hey, man, thank you for being here.
I am a big fan.
We're big fans of what you do, and we can't wait to have you back on the show again soon.
Thank you, guys. It's been a pleasure. Have a great day.
Bye for now, brother.
Bye-bye.
And for all of you watching or listening in Radio Land, wherever you are, whenever you listen, this is your time to leave us a last-minute question, suggestion, good joke, word of wisdom, or, in other words, final thought before we ride our dogs, ponies, cats, and cows into the sunset, into the sunrise, respectively, and round out the week. We do have another question that I thought would be helpful to get to, and I'm going to throw it out there as a teaser, but then if you want to take it somewhere else, just feel free. The question was, will we, we're almost 18 months out from the halving, which is a significant number because if you look at past cycles, 18 months is like the trigger point. It is the time when everything is up, has gone up, or hits its top. And we want to know, the question comes, is there any hope of going up? People ask this a million different ways. Is there going to be an altcoin season? And you guys alluded to this the other day after I was off the show, maybe yesterday. How time flies. I was talking to William Quigley backstage after we got off his episode. And something he was saying that we were talking about is that this is going to be the year that we make or abandon forever this idea of the 4-year cycle theory. That we have to reckon with, like the post-halving. If Bitcoin doesn't go, he said, to 300,000, and if following it, ETH doesn't go to at least 20,000, historically what we've seen is 18 months after, Bitcoin does I think it's a couple single-digit multiples, but ETH usually does double what Bitcoin does. And he was just running some of those numbers with me that if the cycle was to confirm the historical pattern, this is what would have to happen. And I don't know about you guys. I kind of think Bitcoin could hit $250,000, $300,000. But thinking about ETH hitting $20,000 after that and several other altcoins hitting, you said it yesterday on the show, Alex, a $10 trillion market cap seems a little wild for where we are right now. And I don't know that I would go that far. I feel like 3 to 10, I could see that happening if a number of factors lined up. But I told William, I think the cycle that we've seen is mostly been a self-fulfilling prophecy. I personally don't think that if it was a valid thing, you know, the halving causing all these kinds of mechanics by design, my take is that they're mostly self-fulfilling prophecy, that they haven't been a thing, that the halving's been priced in, maybe not just for this cycle, but the last cycle too. What do you guys think about that, or about the prospects of, you know, we talk about it a lot on the show. I know you talked about it yesterday, but especially with this like timeline, you know, that's a couple of months from now, October, November, December is when we'd be looking for it.
Well, the traditional timeline was thrown out the window a long time ago. You know, like that was when the ETF created. The ETF changed everything. We made a new all-time high way faster than we ever had before. We have corrective periods that are shorter than they have been. And I think the best thing you can look at is look at how gold traded before and after its spot ETF was created. And you just had an accelerated market basically up and to the right with, you know, corrections in there, but the corrections last air quote a long time. In crypto would be a very long time to have, you know, a correction last for, you know, 6 months or something like that. But that's much shorter than the bear markets in the past. But it's because the ETFs have opened up a whole different type of investor with way more money than the market's used to. And it's also opening up to just passive investment also. You know, these are the deregulation doors we're opening up. You're going to open up Bitcoin to that world of passive investors who just buy into index funds no matter where they are and go long term. This is part of my retirement strategy. And you're unlocking that huge amount of money, Bitcoin. And you're also going to start to get to a point where there will be a supply crunch for the first time in Bitcoin's history in terms of what's available at centralized cryptocurrency exchanges. That supply just keeps getting widower and widower, smaller and smaller. Smaller and smaller, right? So we've already seen the 4-year cycle change in the past 18 months or however long you said it's been since ETF started. So I don't think it stands to reason. And from what we saw happen to gold, I don't think hanging your hat up on the 4-year cycle is just going to keep doing what it's going to be doing. Seems like the worst hat rack to hang your hat on, if you will. I don't know, bad metaphor, but that's my personal opinion. And I think you're going to still have corrective periods. We've already seen that corrective periods can happen even with the ETF. But, you know, that group of passive buyers combined with supply crunch eventually happening, I think is going to dramatically change it. I still think the halving will always be an event that you can trade on and will have an impact on the market as people get hyped up for the halving. I think that'll always have an impact, but the traditional 4-year cycle, I feel like, can throw out the window. And to finish the comments about Ethereum having to get to $20,000, I don't really understand why it has to do that for the 4-year cycle, especially because with Bitcoin, there's no competition. With Ethereum, there's absolutely competition. And so, you know, some money that before in the past, like Ethereum was the only other safe option, but now you have other exciting prospects. You have Solana as well. And if the Solana ETF gets released, you now have competition amongst those institutional investors. If staking gets turned on for both, which one do institutional investors become more interested in? Is it Ethereum because it's bigger, or is it Solana because it has more growth and more growth potential? I meant growth by adoption and growth potential financially because it's smaller market cap.
And not just Solana, but, you know, a mature market of memes, a bunch of other altcoins in a variety of niches that, frankly, take money away from things like Ethereum, where people are waiting for growth. They're natives. They're probably parking in a DeFi protocol somewhere, and it's nothing for them to swap, bridge, move their money. So I'm with you on that.
Yeah.
What's your take, Al?
I was just looking up the my favorite metric, given what Will you just said about growth and growth potential. Any guesses on 24-hour on-chain revenue between Ethereum and Solana?
Oh yeah. Last time we checked, it was like 6 million Solana and like 1.5 or 2 million to ETH. So I'm gonna say 2.5 to 1 sold to ETH, and Solana did 5 million in revenue.
Will, any guesses?
24 hours, right?
Yep,
Yeah.
24 hours. There's two numbers. There's chain revenue and there's on-chain app revenue.
We're betting some canned
Let's see.
applause.
The market's getting hotter. Altcoins have been flying a little bit more. I'm going to say Solana hit $9 million in 24-hour revenue.
Well, both of you overshot it.
Oh,
TVL is increasing, but on-chain revenue and app revenue is not necessarily following. So Solana in 24 hours, $3.2 million of app revenue and another $2.77 million of on-chain or of chain revenue, chain-specific revenue. And then Ethereum, basically at about half that, $2 million of app revenue and $1.25 million of chain revenue over 24 hours. But TVL increasing across the board in a pretty big way, and Ethereum's TVL specifically is up. Holy shit! Since April,
yeah.
it's up $27 billion.
27 billion?
27 billion with a B.
Which is nuts for just money, but honestly, for them, that's what, like a 2 to 1. I don't know. What's the percent increase on that? That's like a.
It's from about 60 billion to now 86.25 billion. So, and that's because that's new incoming.
Yeah.
Like we've talked a lot
so
about
that's huge.
how much TVL on these ecosystems is stale. It's been sitting there and locked in for a very long time. Tiny amounts of liquidity stuck in liquidity pools that are locked from tokens long dead. That does still contribute to TVL, total value locked, but is actually really pretty meaningless because nobody has access to it. But this is like 26.25 billion of fresh TVL in the past month and a half, which is bananas.
I will say that's impressive, but a lot of bears will say, but look at where it was in the last cycle. In 2022, at the peak, we were higher than this by almost 50%.
But you know what? What I would immediately say to that person, there are, to the umpteenth degree, new places for liquidity to sit now. And the
then
fact
why
that,
wouldn't it be higher? Like, you see what I'm saying?
No, why would it be higher? Why wouldn't it be lower? We have not onboarded really that much new liquidity, and there are 15,000 new places to put it. So people are just
I thought you meant
porting their
on
shit
these.
over. No.
Yeah.
Because for sure. Look at you look at the peak of whatever, you had 120 billion TVL on ETH, but right now you've got 150 billion across the entire industry, and 86.25 billion of that is on ETH. ETH has added more TVL in the past month and a half than all of these remaining things have total put together.
Yeah.
From their next 10 competitors.
And for anybody who wants to look at this data themselves or who's listening in podcast land, we have got the llama working today. This is DeFiLlama.com, where Alex is viewing all of this data. DeFiLlama.com is not a sponsor of the show, so you got to support him because they do a lot of good work for everybody.
Yeah.
Okay, gentlemen, is that a good place for us to share our final thoughts, good jokes, words of wisdom, and then ride this thing into the weekend?
I believe so.
I believe so.
I believe so. Okay, then let me say to you, our friends, thank you for being the very best part of what we do. Palmer says, great show. I always learn when I listen. And also says, in honor of Evan, I will be farming in a kimono today. That's a great last thought. It's worth a ding. Alex, Will, what about you? Final thoughts?
The only final thoughts I would give is that we're at a very interesting point in the markets right now because of the Trump tariffs being blocked by the courts. So
Big news.
How does the market react? Because obviously it's should be a pretty good thing for the markets. The stock market in pre-market and all that's open right now, I'm curious to see what it's doing. But that it was up by an additional percentage point. The US dollar was increasing in strength as a result. And this is not the stock market. But anyway, so you have the thing that's been causing the biggest macroeconomic headwinds blocked by the courts. But at the same time, markets do not like ambiguity and uncertainty. And this provides a really thick cloud of uncertainty and ambiguity in the market as to what is the U.S. trade policy. Again, we're pretty much back at square one of like, okay, so like, what are these tariffs gonna be? You know, and the Trump administration gonna go to court. They're gonna appeal this, and they also have the Supreme Court hearing arguments. They already have about the role of federal judges on Trump trying to end birthright citizenship. And so that's going to affect us as well. But so there's a lot of question marks in the market of like, so like what's actually going to happen here? And markets don't like it. They don't know the answer to that question. So at the same time, hey, this could be great for markets, right? At the same time, hey, this could not be great for markets, right? So what happens today and what happens over the next couple of days is going to be very telling as to the direction of the current market and how it really wants to react to that. Because it could be good, could be bad. Sometimes maybe good, sometimes maybe shit. So I just want you to be aware of that.
Can't Stop Me Now says, I don't know what they're doing. I just DCA.
Amen.
Works
There you go. Amen, man.
Alex, what about you?
It's just been a minute since we've said this, so it's worth it. And I have a funny screen share from Christina today to exemplify this. These are our only profiles. We will never DM you. Nobody will ever DM you on our behalf. And I have to add that as the new disclaimer because of this absolute banger that she just got from Will, apparently your receptionist.
Hell yeah.
So here's the DM. Thank you for the likes and comments on Williams Watson official page. He really appreciates this. You have been randomly selected to have a personal conversation with him directly. Capital He personally told me to help him do this.
You know, Lauren does a lot of great work for me.
I just love the idea that Will heard like this is his admin or his secretary, and he was like, "Oh, might need to get one of those."
That sounds fantastic. It's great, Lauren. You're hired.
Well, I hate to break it to you, Lauren is a guy in Bangalore and just farming you for free money. So if you ever receive, honestly, really like before you try to like figure out how to discern between scams and real, just ignore every DM. Nothing good happens in the DMs on social media when you are in the crypto niche. It just doesn't. Immediately, like if you follow or comment on any creator's page that touches on anything financial, you immediately become a target for scams like this. So just be careful. Do not trust anything that gets DM'd to you that you didn't ask for. Treat it all like Christina says she's very excited to finally talk to Will. So just be careful. Get a second opinion. Do not directly respond to any of these DMs. Treat it like an email from someone you've never heard of who sent you an attachment and said, go ahead and download this. Like they can't hurt you if you just ignore it. And they're all just phishing. But if you interact, real damage can happen. Pig butchering scams are super, super common. That's a good one to look into to learn how to avoid classic phishing, all that kind of stuff. So just please be careful. And honestly, I've started to see more and more of these impersonators with creators who do not touch on anything financial and are just large, who DM, the impersonators DM people just like trying to set up meetings or voice chats or pretend to like try to start a relationship and just like lure people, and it's all about money. So just be careful. If you're aware, the best thing that you can do to serve your community is waste those people's time.
Yeah.
So just
Yaku in the
DM
comments said, I like to troll them.
Yes, there you go. Thank you for your service. Just DM them weird shit and keep them strung along, because every time they're wasting time with you, they're not scamming somebody else. So
This is true.
I will absolutely die on
there
this
she
hill.
is. Good week. Good.
Beautiful.
Solid week.
And my final thought is to say, if you want to catch this episode, you want to catch episode 291 with DePIN Hub, you want to look back to the first time Geebz came on the show, where you got a couple of options, and all of them live at the riseupmorningshow.com. When you get there, you'll find all of the free resources, all the official links to social media, the link to our Discord server, which is a global community, learners at all levels of experience. All, my friends, that's missing is you. It's the best place to ask a question, get a second opinion. Hey, does this look like a scam? Meet your future founder or new best friend. And also, it's the number one tip I can give you. If you are trying to learn crypto, You need a community of people who have been walking this path, who might be a little further ahead or a little further behind you, that you can learn from or share what you know with. It will help you. We say, rise up. And my friends, we really do mean it when we say that you are the very best part of what we do. So thank you. And please, please, wherever you are, whenever you listen, join us again next time. We'll be back Monday, 7 a.m. Central Standard Time. And until then, my friends, everybody have a great weekend. Stay safe. Be well, everybody.